You would absolutely never guess that a creature once existed on Earth, with 5 eyes and a vacuum cleaner on its head, specifically designed to hunt small prey on the seabed. This is Opabinia from 500 million years ago. When paleontologists first saw its fossils, they were completely stunned, because the way this thing looked totally subverted human understanding of life. Imagine a monster that looks like a shrimp with 5 eyes lined up on its head, of which the back 2 were especially large, monitoring prey like searchlights. Even more ridiculous, it had a long, slender tubular appendage on its head, just like an elephant's trunk, but the end was a claw with barbs, used specifically for grabbing prey. Scientists once thought this might be an alien creature because there are no living animals on Earth that have even the slightest connection to it. The Cambrian Ocean 500 million years ago was practically a mad laboratory of the biological world. Nature was like a drunken designer, daring to pile any absurd look onto a creature. And Opabinia was, in this crazy party, the most bizarre existence. But did you know? The discovery of this freakish creature was actually an accident. In the Canadian Rockies, collected a piece of dark shale. He never expected that this unremarkable stone beneath his feet actually hid a secret that would shock the world. He spent a full 2 years before finally, in 1911, from the shale, digging out 9 bizarre fossils. At first glance, it looked like a flattened small shrimp. But upon closer inspection, how is this a shrimp? This is clearly an alien visitor. Walcott was stunned at the time, because according to biological classification, this thing didn't fit in anywhere. It was neither fish nor shrimp, nor any known arthropod. It just appeared out of nowhere in the fossil record, as if it had crossed over from another universe. Even more frustrating was the body structure of Opabinia, which simply broke all the rules. Its 5 eyes were arranged in a trapezoid, with the back 2 being the largest, like 2 giant searchlights. The front 2 were slightly smaller, with another one sandwiched in the middle. This configuration gave it nearly a 360-degree field of vision. In that era, when the vast majority of creatures hadn't even evolved eyes, Opabinia was already equipped with 5 high-definition cameras. This visual range, even modern top predators would envy. But what truly left scientists speechless was its bizarre vacuum cleaner. This tubular appendage extending from the head accounted for 1/3 of its body length. The end was not a suction cup, but a claw with barbs. Scientists speculate that Opabinia would use this trunk to rummage through the silt on the seabed. When it encountered small worms or other prey, it would grab them with the claw, and then, like a conveyor belt, deliver the food into its mouth located beneath the head. This operation was more flexible than modern mechanical arms. Even more amazing was that on both sides of Opabinia's body grew 14 pairs of paddle-like lobes. These lobes flapped continuously, allowing it to swim through the water. Although not fast, it was considered high-tech for that era, because while most creatures back then were still crawling on the seabed, Opabinia was already driving an electric car. Yet, such a seemingly powerful hunter was actually quite a vulnerable little thing in the Cambrian Ocean. Why say that? Because it was only 4 to 7 centimeters long, not even as long as one of your fingers. In that era of eat or be eaten, it had natural enemies above it, namely the ultimate overlord of the Cambrian, Anomalocaris. Anomalocaris could reach a meter in length, 10 times larger than Opabinia. To Opabinia, Anomalocaris was a walking Grim Reaper. Once targeted, it was basically a dead end. So Opabinia's survival strategy was not to fight head-on, but to stay low. It would lurk in the silt of the seabed, using those 5 eyes to constantly monitor the surroundings. Once it spotted a trace of Anomalocaris, it would immediately burrow into the sand to hide, or find a rock crevice to crawl into. This cautious way of life allowed it to stubbornly survive in the peril-filled Cambrian Ocean. But what's truly impressive about Opabinia wasn't how strong it was, but that it witnessed one of the greatest events in the history of life on Earth, the Cambrian explosion. In that magical era, in just a few million years, Earth created more species diversity than in the previous 4 billion years. All sorts of bizarre creatures popped up like mushrooms after rain. There was the five-eyed Opabinia, the spine-covered hallucigenia, the giant predator Anomalocaris, and the hard-shelled trilobites. The entire ocean became a wild arena for biological evolution. How exactly did this explosion happen? The scientific community has debated this for over 100 years. Some say it was a sudden increase in atmospheric oxygen. Some say it was changes in ocean chemistry, and others say it was an innovation in gene regulation mechanisms. But whatever the reason, Opabinia was the most peculiar witness of that era. Its existence tells us that the possibilities of life are far crazier than we imagine. However, this freakish species ultimately couldn't escape the fate of extinction. After the Cambrian ended, Opabinia disappeared from the fossil record. Its 5 eyes, its rubbery vacuum cleaner, and its paddle-like lobes all became history. No similar creature ever appeared on Earth again. But just in 2022, scientists in Wales, UK discovered shocking news. They found a relative of Opabinia, a fossil of a creature called Myra. This fellow lived 470 million years ago, which is a full 40 million years later than the previously thought existence of Opabinia-like creatures. This means that these 5-eyed monsters survived on Earth far longer than we imagine. This discovery has completely rewritten our understanding of the Opabinia family. It turns out they didn't go extinct entirely during the Cambrian period. Instead, they tenaciously survived until the Ordovician. In that even more modernized ocean, when snails, corals, and cephalopods began to appear in large numbers, these ancient 5-eyed monsters were still quietly surviving on the seabed. This kind of resilience that spans across time and space is simply awe-inspiring. Imagine, in that ocean from 500 million years ago, tiny little Opabinia, using their 5 eyes to vigilantly scan their surroundings, using that strange nozzle to rummage through the silt for food. They weren't the strongest, nor were they the largest, but they witnessed the great transformation of life from simple to complex. In their own peculiar way, they found the meaning of survival in that crazy era. Perhaps we today will never fully understand why Mother Nature would create such a bizarre species. What was the point of having 5 eyes? Why did that nozzle grow like that? These mysteries may be forever buried on the seabed of 500 million years ago. But the existence of Opabinia itself is a miracle. It tells us that the evolution of life never plays by the rules. It is full of accidents, full of surprises, and full of infinite possibilities. So next time you feel that this world is too dull and ordinary, think about the Opabinia. Think about that little fellow with 5 eyes and a vacuum cleaner on its head, striving to survive on the seabed 500 million years ago. It will tell you, this universe is always much more exciting than you imagine. If you think the T-Rex was fierce enough, that's only because you haven't seen the ultimate killer that ruled the oceans 500 million years ago. The eyes of this monster, Anomalocaris, were larger than your fist, yet its vision was 100 times that of a modern fly. It could precisely lock onto every tremor of its prey in murky waters. What's even more terrifying is that its mouth wasn't on its face, but under its belly. Like a meat grinder, it was lined with dozens of rings of sharp, serrated blades. It could crush the shells of trilobites, the hardest things in the ocean then, as easily as cracking sunflower seeds. Imagine you are swimming in the ocean, suddenly sensing something approaching from behind. You look back and see a 2-meter-long monster. It is staring at you with compound eyes made of over 20,000 lenses. It extends 2 spiny, sickle-like arms at a speed so fast the seawater can't even react. The next second, you are stuffed into the circular meat grinder on its belly. This was 500 million years ago, the daily hunting routine of Anomalocaris, the absolute overlord at the top of the Cambrian food chain. But you would absolutely never guess that this super predator, who dominated the ocean for 30 million years, ultimately disappeared from the Earth completely due to a seemingly trivial reason. Today, let's talk about how this prehistoric god of slaughter gradually led itself to its own downfall. First, you have to know what Anomalocaris actually look like. The design of this thing is like an alien biology blueprint, with a body 2.5 meters long. In an era where most organisms were only the size of a fingernail, this size was terror in motion. The streamlined torso was like a torpedo, with a pair of giant sickle-shaped arms at the front. Each arm was densely packed with 14 sharp barbs. The mouth was a ring-shaped strangulation device, with 32 curved serrated teeth arranged in a circle. Once the prey went in, it could never come out. The back was fitted with 11 pairs of paddle-like swimming flaps that could control direction independently. The entire design was like forcefully welded together, a mantis, a lobster, and a shark, and then turning on a cheat mode for its size. But the most insane part was its eyes. Each eye was composed of 16,000 independent lenses, arranged in a perfect hemispherical array. It could simultaneously see everything in a 360-degree range. What does that mean? Modern dragonflies are said to have the strongest compound eyes in the insect world, and they only have about 30,000 lenses. Anomalocaris already had this configuration 500 million years ago. What's even more ridiculous is, and precisely calculate the prey's speed, distance, and movement trajectory. Simply put, the eyes of Anomalocaris were a biological radar with a built-in aiming system. In that era, most organisms didn't even have eyes. They either took root on the seabed like plants, or drifted blindly in the darkness. The entire ocean was like a giant dark nursing home. Every creature was living in the dark. Then Anomalocaris opened its eyes. This was like a game where everyone was supposed to play with their eyes closed, but suddenly someone opened theirs. He could see exactly where you were, what you were doing, and where you wanted to flee. Yet you knew nothing of his existence. This wasn't hunting. It was a massacre. But eyes alone weren't enough. The two predatory arms of Anomalocaris, from opening to closing, the entire process took only 15 seconds. 15 seconds is 20 times faster than you can blink. And the design was incredibly sophisticated. Open, they could cover a range of 60 centimeters. Close, they became a perfect death trap. The 14 barbs on each arm were arranged in a spiral. Once the prey was caught, the more it struggled, the deeper they pierced. This bite force was enough to pierce the hardest trilobite shells in the ocean at the time. What's the deal with trilobites? They were the armored tanks of the Cambrian period. Wrapped entirely in calcium carbonate shells, they were as hard as stone. But in front of Anomalocaris, this armor was as brittle as potato chips. With a crunch, the trilobite was snapped in two. What's even more terrifying is that its mouth had 32 sharp teeth arranged in a ring, every single tooth curved inward, forming a one-way passage. Once the prey was stuffed inside, the sharp teeth rotated like a meat grinder, grinding the prey into mush and swallowing it directly. Did Anomalocaris swim fast? Faster than you can imagine. Its top speed in water could reach 5 meters per second, equivalent to 18 kilometers per hour. You might not think that's fast, but 500 million years ago, most other creatures in the ocean could only move slowly at a few centimeters per second. Anomalocaris' speed was more than 100 times theirs. It was like you were driving a supercar, while everyone around you was a snail. And even better, the 11 pairs of swimming flaps could be controlled independently. Accelerate when it wanted to, turn sharply when it wanted to, and even reverse if it wanted to. Its flexibility was nothing like that of a 2-meter-long beast. This was simply a perfect bionic design. Equipped with top-tier vision, ultra-fast reflexes, a powerful bite, and extreme agility, Anomalocaris was the absolute king of the Cambrian Ocean. No creature could escape its pursuit, and no creature could resist its attack. Its way of ruling the ocean was simple and brutal. See it, catch it, kill it, and eat it. Before Anomalocaris appeared, the entire ocean was a peaceful place. All creatures floated quietly in the water, living off organic matter dissolved in the seawater. There was no competition, no killing. The entire ocean was like a giant buffet. Everyone took what they needed and lived in harmony. But the appearance of the Anomalocaris completely shattered this tranquility. It told all living things a cruel truth. You aren't living, you are food. And so, the craziest evolutionary arms race in Earth's history began. This is the famous Cambrian explosion. But what many people don't know is that the real trigger for this explosion was the Anomalocaris. Trilobites frantically thickened their shells, going from a few millimeters thick to several centimeters. Mollusks learned to burrow, hiding in the mud and rock crevices. Sponges began to evolve toxic chemicals, poisoning any predator that took a bite. Some creatures even began to grow sharp spikes, turning themselves into pincushions, so the Anomalocaris had nowhere to bite. The entire ocean went from a chill nursing home to a frenzied, cutthroat battlefield. And the instigator of it all was the Anomalocaris. Over these long ages, the Anomalocaris evolved itself to the extreme. Its body grew larger and larger, from an initial few dozen centimeters to 2.5 meters. Its eyes grew more sophisticated, with the number of lenses increasing from a few thousand to 16,000. Its speed became faster, and its hunting efficiency higher. It became the absolute overlord of the Cambrian Ocean, with no rivals. But it was precisely this perfection that sowed the seeds of its destruction. Earth's climate began to fluctuate violently. Ocean temperatures plummeted, and oxygen levels dropped sharply. The entire ecosystem began to reorganize. New underdogs appeared. They were smaller, faster, and consumed less energy. Meanwhile, that massive body of the Anomalocaris needed to eat 30% of its body weight every day just to survive. This wasn't an issue when food was abundant, but as food became increasingly scarce, it became a fatal weakness. Even worse, the seawater became increasingly murky. The 16,000 lens compound eyes that the Anomalocaris took such pride in could see nothing in the muddy water. Its giant, sickle-shaped frontal appendages couldn't maneuver in narrow rock crevices. Its streamlined body faced too much resistance in murky water, making swimming more and more exhausting. All of its former advantages turned into fatal flaws overnight. It was like a supercar, invincible on a highway, but completely stuck, once driven onto a muddy mountain road. The Anomalocaris was that supercar, and the changing environment turned the entire ocean into a muddy mountain road. There was an even more lethal problem. Anomalocaris needed to spawn in specific temperatures and salinity levels. The hatching of eggs required precise ocean conditions. Climate change made these conditions harder to find. The survival rate of larvae plummeted from 70% to less than 10%. Even if the adult Anomalocaris could keep hunting, without a new generation to replenish them, the population quickly collapsed. Ultimately, the last of the Anomalocaris vanished completely. There was no epic battle, no earth-shattering catastrophe. They just quietly exited the stage of history. Through their extinction, they left a profound lesson for posterity. Evolution does not reward the strongest. It only rewards those best able to adapt to change. Today, dozens of distant relatives of the Anomalocaris still live in the ocean. Mantis shrimp, lobsters, and crabs. They all inherited the arthropod body structure of the Anomalocaris, but none inherited its extreme configuration. They chose a more balanced evolutionary path. They have offensive power, but not so much that it drains their energy. They can swim quickly. They have defense, but not so heavy that it hinders movement, but also hide in rock crevices. These seemingly mediocre traits are exactly what allowed them to survive from 500 million years ago to today. So, the next time you eat lobster, remember that what you are eating is the descendant of Earth's first superkiller. Into a frenzy of evolution, its ancestors once forced every life form on the planet. A 30-million-year reign proved one simple truth: perfection is not the finish line. It is the beginning of death. Because the environment is always changing, and if you only know one trick, you are just waiting to die. The story of the Anomalocaris reminds us, in this ever-changing world, flexibility is always more important than strength, and adaptability is always more valuable than perfection.